Hello everyone, this is Jim Lucy, Editor-in-Chief for Electrical Wholesaling and Electrical Marketing with our first EW Executive Insights podcast for 2023. In this podcast, we'll explore the 10 types of large construction projects that I think will still offer revenue opportunities in what could be a down construction market in 2023. Even in a slower market environment, construction activity will be fueled by the federal economic stimulus like the CHIPS Act to incentivize onshoring of semiconductor manufacturing, and the IRA legislation that provides financial incentives and tax breaks for a broad swath of construction activity, including but not limited to the revitalization of the U.S. electrical grid, mass transit, ports, electric vehicle charging stations, and renewables. I've always been fascinated with large construction projects. When I was a kid, back in the late 1960s, my dad, who was involved in the surety bonding business in the New York metropolitan area and was on construction sites a fair amount, he took us, my brothers and I, to the original World Trade Center site in Lower Manhattan. I was amazed at the height of the towers being built and how many contractors were on the site. One of us took home a large bolt from the project, but it unfortunately got lost over the years in a clean out of my parents' basement. A few years later, during my college summers, I worked on a few construction projects as a helper. One year, it was just sweeping up sawdust and running out for coffee for a construction company building a luxury home in Montclair, New Jersey. 3 other years, I saw construction projects from a unique perspective by working on it for a test boring and drilling company getting core samples for the rock for future construction projects. I spent a summer on an offshore drilling rig off the coast of New Hampshire that was doing prep work for the ill-fated Seabrook nuclear power plant. Another summer, I helped drill for core samples in Maine's North Woods in the Allagash Wilderness for the proposed Sticky Lincoln Dam that was never built. These experiences gave me an appreciation for all the different types of construction companies that work on a project and the often colorful cast of characters that work for these construction companies. As an editor for Electrical Wholesaling, I've also enjoyed getting out on construction projects that different distributors have worked on and learning about their role in the team that works on these projects from inception to project completion. One of my favorite visits was in Baltimore, where the folks from Shepherd Electric Supply took me to the Ravens football stadium to see the lighting projects they did there. I also got the chance to visit some pretty unusual projects. One time it was visiting a bank vault in New York where a manufacturer had specified flat under carpet cabling for the power and lighting system. I also got a chance to check out the construction of an office for a coffee commodities trader who insisted on having running water in his office so he could make cups of coffee from the beans he was trading on the commodity exchange. When you consider that the electrical construction accounts for no less than 10% of a typical construction project, when a billion-dollar construction project breaks ground, a real trophy project, it can provide engineering firms doing the design, the electrical contractors working on the job, and the distributors, reps, and manufacturers providing the product, supply, and support services. It can provide them with a nice chunk of change. Smaller projects make up much more of the construction work that accounts for so much of the business in the electrical market. And electrical distributors, their customers, and buying groups play an important role in making them all happen. The following 10 types of construction projects are in the niches that electrical wholesaling editors believe may offer the most promise in 2023. It's going to be fascinating once again to learn about the roles that distributors, their customers, and buying influencers play in making each of them happen. The projects that we'll be looking at in today's podcast are semiconductor plants, offshore wind farms, microgrids, residential construction in the fastest growing metros, urban mixed-use projects, mass transit, airport terminals, port expansion, electrical vehicle battery plants, electric grid expansion. Let's take a good look at a good example of each of these project types right now. We've been writing quite a bit in electrical wholesaling and electrical marketing about the billion-dollar semiconductor factories that are being announced or have started breaking ground all over the U.S. to enhance the onshore manufacturing of these important technical components. Our first project of note is the Purdue University Skywater Semiconductor Factory in West Lafayette, Indiana. While there's been all sorts of plans announced for these multi-billion-dollar semiconductor plants, the public-private partnership engineered by Skywater Technology, the state of Indiana, and Purdue University to jointly develop a $1.8 billion semiconductor factory in Purdue's Discovery Park is unique. One of the big draws to building a new chip factory adjacent to the Purdue campus was the pipeline of engineering talent in the university's technical programs. Announced in July 2022, the project will be funded in part by the federal government's CHIP financial incentives. Thomas Sonderman, Skywater's president and CEO, said in the press release, "Federal incentives will enable Skywater to more quickly expand our efforts to address the need for strategic reshoring of semiconductor manufacturing. Through our alliance with the Indiana Economic Development Corporation and Purdue Research Foundation, we have a unique opportunity to increase domestic production, shore up our supply chains, and lay the groundwork for manufacturing technologies that will support growing demand for microelectronics. The second project type that we're going to feature in this podcast are offshore wind farms. There are several of the wind farms that will be built off New York's Long Island coast, and at least one has started construction. The South Fork Wind Project being built by Ørsted and Eversource will have 12 Siemens Gamesa 11-megawatt turbines that will generate approximately 130 megawatts of power. That's enough to power over 70,000 homes, according to a post at southforkwind.com. It's expected to begin producing power for Long Island by the end of 2023. An even larger wind farm called the Sunrise Wind Farm will generate 924 megawatts and have the potential to power over 600,000 homes. It's expected to begin producing power by 2025, according to the press release. Offshore wind farms like South Fork Wind and Sunrise Wind offer the electrical industry a variety of new revenue opportunities. Wire and cable manufacturers compete for contracts to supply the massive undersea cables, and the onshore substations and staging areas at ports will offer the electrical construction industry many solid bidding opportunities in the years to come. In addition to the construction jobs for the offshore wind farm, New York State is also building a new operations and maintenance hub in Port Jefferson, New York on Long Island, and that will create up to 100 new and permanent full-time jobs. They are also building a $10 million National Workforce Training Center on Long Island. This facility, being built in the partnership with the Suffolk County Community College and labor unions, will offer training programs that will create job opportunities in the offshore wind industry. In addition to the New York wind farms, there are other plans on the drawing boards to build enough wind farms along the Atlantic coast, along with New York, New Jersey, New England, and Virginia to supply the power equivalent of 40 nuclear power plants, according to a Bloomberg post. A little further down the road, there was recently some leases that were sold out off the California coast for a number of wind farms in that area as well. You may not have heard much about microgrids just yet, but I believe they will eventually evolve into a major new decentralized power source and a new market opportunity for the electrical contractors, distributors, reps, manufacturers, design firms, and other electrical professionals who are willing to investigate a potentially new and lucrative market opportunity. A microgrid produces the local power outside of the conventional electrical grid from solar panels, wind turbines, natural gas-powered turbines, and other power sources. Microgrids often mix and match these power sources to provide power for cities, municipalities, schools, college campuses, military bases, airports, and other off-grid applications. Microgrids can also provide primary power or emergency backup power and are often connected to the grid to provide excess power to a local utility. The proposed Renaissance at Bader Field development on a brownfield site at a former airport in Atlantic City, New Jersey is a $2.7 billion project. It would be powered in part by a microgrid. It will also include LEED certified luxury and affordable multifamily housing, offices, stores, and a 2.44-mile Formula One racetrack, as well as a hotel. Deem Enterprises, the developer, and PURDUE, the contractor, said the microgrid would be powered by natural gas turbines but would eventually be transitioned to clean hydrogen. Solar panels on the roofs of the buildings in the development would also provide additional power. Ken Wright, the co-founder and president of PURDUE, said in a presentation on microgrid opportunities at the 2021 NECA conference that two of the biggest challenges currently restricting the growth of microgrids are a regulatory thicket at the local level that often sparks debates about how to bring power generated by microgrids to end users, and the perception by some utilities that microgrids installed by commercial customers or third-party power providers are a threat to their primary role of being a provider of electrical power. Shared residential development has hit the skids in many local metropolitan areas, but over the past few years, home builders in the Phoenix area have pulled permits at a rate that would amaze folks in most other markets. In 2022, builders pulled 25,831 single-family permits through November, a number that only Houston and Dallas metros topped. And since 2019, the U.S. Bureau of Census data shows that the Phoenix builders pulled more than 91,000 single-family building permits. The truly massive TERVALIS development that broke ground near the western edge of Phoenix Valley of the Sun will make these numbers look like chump change. Over the next few years, the developer intends to build 100,000 homes on 37,000 acres, as well as 55 million square foot of commercial space. Arizona Governor Doug Ducey said in a press release about the development, since 2015, Arizona has welcomed over 584,000 new residents, and we don't expect that momentum to stop anytime soon. And I believe he certainly would expect that many of them to be moving into this massive TERVALIS development. Although the non-residential construction segment as a whole may be down in 2023, electrical wholesaling centers still see plenty of activity in downtown revitalization projects. One of the larger urban mixed-use projects now underway is a $1 billion, 18-acre Nashville Yards being developed by Andrews Entertainment Group, or AEG, and Southwest Partners in downtown Nashville. The Nashville Yards mixed-use entertainment district will be anchored by a 4,000-seat capacity state-of-the-art country music venue, an upscale 8-screen cinema, more than 1,000 hotel rooms, restaurants, stores, and 275,000 square feet of Class A office space and 3 residential towers. Other cities with mixed-use projects underway or planned and valued at $1 billion or more in total construction value include Google's plans for the $19 billion Downtown West development in San Jose, California, the $3.5 billion Seaport San Diego project proposal, the $2 billion Green City proposal in Richmond, Virginia, and Washington, D.C.'s $2 billion Poplar Place waterfront redevelopment. While all of these projects will have a big impact on their cities, none is quite as large as the $25 billion multi-year Hudson City Yards development in the Big Apple that is nearing completion right now. Light rail and passenger service expansion projects typically require millions of dollars in medium and high voltage electrical equipment and draw other businesses to new or renovated stations. A big project in New York is going to be very interesting to many of the distributors, reps, contractors, and other design firms and other electrical professionals in the Big Apple area. The $3.2 billion expansion of New York subway service in the Bronx, New York that broke ground recently is the Metropolitan Transit Authority's largest expansion since 1983. It will add 4 new stations to an area of the city that has historically had poor direct access to Manhattan's Penn Station, the rest of the city subway station, as well as the Amtrak trains coming and going through Penn Station. The new stations will be in Hunts Point, Parkchester, Van Nest, Morris Park, and Co-op City, and are expected to drastically reduce commute times for hundreds of thousands of residents who live near these subway stations, according to the press release. While airport renovation projects have been quite common in recent years, the $9.5 billion price tag for JFK's International Airport's new Terminal 1 caught our eye. The project, which broke ground in September, is part of an $18 billion revitalization of JFK that includes several other completed terminal renovations. Airport construction in the New York metropolitan area has been going gangbusters in recent years. The work at JFK follows the $8 billion renovation of nearby LaGuardia Airport, as well as Newark Airport's $3.3 billion Terminal A project, which was completed in late 2022. According to a March 2022 article in Airline Weekly, parts of more than $13 billion in airport construction was completed in 2022, including large projects at Los Angeles' LAX Airport, the Orlando Airport, and Chicago O'Hare's Airport. The state of New York said in a press release that when complete, the new JFK terminal will be the largest at JFK Airport and will require 6,000 construction workers on site. We estimate that 780 electrical contractor employees will be on site at that project. The press release also said that JFK's new Terminal 1 will have 23 gates and cover 2.4 million square feet. It's massive, and as a point of comparison will be nearly the same size as the new LaGuardia Airport's 2 terminals combined. If you've been to LaGuardia over the past year and have gone through those terminals, it's quite a difference from where that airport had been for many, many years. Construction of the new terminal at JFK will take place in phases. The first phase of the project is expected to open in 2026, and all 3 phases of Terminal 1 are expected to finish up in 2030. There's a surprising amount of electrical construction work at ports, including not only jobs that require lighting, wiring cable for warehouse and docks, but also plenty of control equipment and cabling for the cranes that handle the shipping containers. This construction segment got a ton of financial stimulus from the federal government's Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which allocated $17 billion in funding for port and waterway renovation. One of the larger port projects now underway is the Georgia Ports Authority Board's renovations of the Port of Savannah's ocean terminal and the docks there to better accommodate its expanding container ship operation. According to the press release, construction has started on 360,000 square feet of dockside warehousing that will serve auto processing, the 3 additional buildings, 85 acres of auto storage space, and new gantry cranes. Over the past 2 years, electric vehicle battery manufacturers have announced plans for tens of billions of dollars in combined investment for EV battery factories in the United States. The December 2022 announcement that ENVISOIN AESC would invest $800 million in a new EV factory in South Carolina to supply BMW with the EV batteries was the latest news about a trend that's juicing up industrial construction nationwide. A press release from South Carolina's Office of the Governor said the new factory being built by ENVISOIN AESC would create 1,170 new jobs. BMW is also investing in its U.S. electric vehicle operations in a big way, and it recently announced that it will spend $1 billion to add EV manufacturing capacity to its Spartanburg, South Carolina plant. It's also going to invest $700 million in a facility in Woodruff, South Carolina, to build a 1 million square foot high-voltage battery assembly facility there. By 2030, BMW says it will be building at least 6 fully electrical vehicle models in the United States. Quanta Services is a Houston-based electrical contractor with a specialty in electric transmission and utility-scale renewable projects. Recently won a big bid in Colorado that will help that state get more electrical power from new solar and wind farms. According to a Quanta press release, Xcel Energy selected the company as the prime contractor for the massive Power Pathway project, which will include the construction of approximately 610 miles of 340 kV transmission infrastructure that will primarily be in eastern Colorado. The Power Pathway project includes the installation of 4 new substations and the expansion of 4 existing substations. It's designed to increase the reliability of Colorado's power grid and also, as mentioned, to enable the future renewable energy development in the state. That will include at least 5,500 megawatts of new wind, solar, and other resources that Xcel Energy plans to add there through 2030. Thanks again for listening to the podcast today. I want to experiment with a podcast as a new way for electrical wholesaling to cover trophy jobs. My thinking is that it might be a popular format for folks who are on the road or who like to access their content on their mobile devices in easy listening mode. As in the past, we will have a print article on these trophy jobs, and this year's article will be in the January-February print issue of Electrical Wholesaling. I also posted a media gallery on these projects on ewweb.com for those readers and viewers who like their content in this format. Appreciate you listening today. Look for other EW Executive Insights podcasts. We'll be trying to get them up once a month. We also have our series of the Today's Electrical Economy podcast sponsored by Champion Fiberglass. Take care. Be well. Look forward to talking with you soon.